So, welcome, Helena, to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about about Nervosa, about this last album, Jailbreak, and more things related to the metal wars. So we're starting, I think, with a common question: how was band being the band during the last 2 years? Because your previous album, Perpetual Chaos, was released 2 years ago by the end of the pandemic, but now we are releasing a second album. So how was the band being during these 2 years?
In these 2 years, I mean, the band, first of all, I was called, to join the band by the end of, almost by the release of Perpetual Chaos at that period. And of course, I wasn't like an official member. I wasn't doing gigs back then. But we were starting composing the new album, Jailbreak, together with Crítica. So the previous years were pretty busy, composing the album, as the band was also touring at the same time. In the previous year, I was called to cover up for Mia's, the bass player, for Mia's place in the Latin American tour. So yeah, I can say that the last 2 years were pretty busy, or touring or composing the album. And especially the last, half of the year that we finished the recordings of the album, it's busy enough because we started, touring with the new lineup. We had the festivals in the summer, so it was pretty much great, of course, but of course it was a lot of work.
Great to know that. Great to know that. Well, talking about for me, when I hear for Perpetual Chaos, I remember that how was influenced completely from. I think that album was composed and written from Crítica, the only member from original member. But when I listen to this Jailbreak, I note your presence there because I'm more melodic stuff, more heavy metal stuff. It's very different from the previous one. That's my appreciation. But perhaps you have a different one. Perhaps for you, what are the biggest difference that exists that Jailbreaker has compared to the previous one?
Yeah, look, of course, it's first of all, it's about Crítica taking the main vocals. That right after Diva, announced that she's leaving the band. Crítica said that I don't want to change the voice of the band again, so I'm deciding to take the main vocals. So, and her style of vocals and her, the way she's singing, it was very great, and it matched very well to what we wanted to listen for the new album. And of course, secondly, we are now 2 guitars in the band for the first time, like recording a whole album and getting on stage with 2 guitars. So this gives a lot of more opportunities to the band and a lot more opportunities to the compositions of the album and of the songs, because everything now it's more flexible. We can do the guitar duos, we can do more guitar solos, like the 2 guitars exchanging guitar solos. It's stuff that was pretty impossible to do in the previous album, because it's like one guitar has to cover everything, and especially for performing on a live show, it's impossible if everything is super busy. So now that we are 2 guitarists, everything is more flexible, and we have the chance to bring also this on stage.
Okay, yeah, that is true, because in the past was one guitar bass and vocals, and it is very different. Yeah, that is right. So related to this and from this new album, we know that the Endless Ambition, Seed of Death, and Jailbreak are the first singles for this new album, or the previous of this new album. But as you know, the people now are trying to find other kind of singles, not the usual ones, like the deep cuts from the album, perhaps of the band. For you, which songs motivated you to enter to Nervosa as a person? How do you say this in English? I remember. as a, how this as a permanent member in the band.
You mean how I became a permanent member?
Yes. Well, which song motivates you?
Which song?
Yes.
From the album, from Jailbreak.
Yes.
I mean, look, by the beginning that we started composing together with Prika, the new album, I remember the very first ideas and riffs that we start to exchange. It was, the main riffs of Endless Ambition, the first single. So as we start working to it and we listen to each other's ideas, I was very convinced that we have something very good in our hands, and me and Prika, we have the same way of seeing the things and the same way of thinking about the album. So yeah, I realized that this would be a great cooperation to work together, and because, as I said, I realized that the stuff that we had in our hands was very good. I was totally 100%, to go on with Nervosa and do everything, do the album, continue in everything.
Okay. And related to this, how are you entering into the band? Who person did the first contact? Perhaps Prika contacts you, perhaps the label contacts you, or perhaps you was in touch with Prika about the band, talking about the band, etc. Who was the first contact to enter the band?
The first contact was with Prika, because when they ended the production of Perpetual Chaos, she knew that she wants a second guitar in the band. So, she was in the process of searching about guitarists, and I had some stuff from my solo work uploaded in my social media on YouTube. So she came across this stuff, and in the beginning was like interaction through social media, but then I had a message like, okay, can we do a meeting, like a video call? And I said, like, okay. And then she proposed me, like, if I want to get in the band, if I want to write the new album with her, if I want to join in all the aspects of the band. And of course, I was totally in.
Okay. Well, nice. Well, since the beginning, a curious thing happened into the all albums from Nervosa, and perhaps you know it. Victim of Yourself has a person with a skull there trying to murder another skeleton there. That Agony has this, I think, the same skeleton there. Then Downfall of the Mankind, same the El Skeleton, more old, not just with beer. That's only thing. Now Perpetual has the same, well, it's like the same date or like the same Reaper there, and now we have the same Reaper, I think, or the same skull trying to put a mask when a skin mask, in the cover art. Perhaps this character in the old cover has a name. Perhaps you know the name, or just is the continuations is the first one to the new one.
The character is just a character. It doesn't have any name, but maybe it's a good idea to give a character a name from now on. No, but I think it's pretty much like let's say a specific thing of the band. This school, it's connected, with the band that writes in the covers or in the merchandise and everything. But yeah, especially now in the Jailbreak, we wanted to have again, this school that correct. You say exactly that it's like a character.
Yes.
In there, like putting off the mask. But yeah, as you said, it's like a character. But we still don't have any specific name for him.
Okay. Well, talking about now about the new members, how is Hellfire and Michaela Nova fits in the music of the new album for you, of this Nervosa album?
Mhm.
How was?
You know,
Okay, continue.
Michaela joined the band like just a very, very little period before we hit the studio for to start all the recording process of the album. She's an amazing player, and she's coming up with great ideas, composing, the drums. And we didn't knew her in person before. We only knew her up again through social media, and that's how we approached her and did the first contact. And we met her in person when we entered the studio some days before we start recording. And we were very happy because it was very like natural connection. We met each other, we hung out great, and then we started all the recording process. Everything was working like very smooth. We were super okay. And Helena, I think she came just before starting after the recordings, but before starting shooting the video clips of the singles. So unfortunately, she didn't have the chance to participate on composing the album. She composed like the bass lines for one song, for Seed of Death. But of course, we want her for the next album to be like totally in from the beginning. But yeah, I mean, I knew Helena before because we are from both from Greece, but we never played together in any bands. So I'm very happy with it because with all the members, we have a very natural connection that touring together and spending more and more time together, it's getting even stronger.
Okay. So talking about the last questions about the album. So what kind of promotion do you have for this Jailbreaker? Perhaps you will embark in more tours, because I saw that the band is very busy doing tours the last months and last weeks. How perhaps you will embark on more tours, perhaps you will return a completely full tour in Latin America. Who knows, next year, this year, perhaps more videos upcoming, or perhaps you already are working in a new album. Who knows?
Look, for sure, the next years are going to be very busy. Exactly as you said, touring all over the world, Europe, US, Latin America. And we want to go to places and countries that we never been before, and Nervosa never been before, like Australia, for example. For now, we have one tour confirmed in Mexico that starts in the beginning of October. We have one more festival on November, the Metal Hammer Paradise, and 70,000 tons of metal in end of January, beginning of February. And we have many things, on that we start planning also for the next year. But for sure, it's gonna be, very busy, and for sure we're gonna have a lot of shows all around the world.
Okay, well, as I said in the first question, talking about other kind of aspects into the music, in the music industry in general. So, how do you see the music industry after the pandemic, when everything was closed and concert couldn't be being held? We really wanted to get back to normal at that time, but now, but now we have a real return to the normality, and have we heard the pandemic hit us? So how much did you learn about the pandemic, and how is it now the prices into the to doing a tour? Because I spoke with a lot of well-known musicians that they told me that the prices for the bus, flight tickets, venues, etc. rise up. So what is your point of view about this all kind of thing that happened after the pandemic?
Yeah, look, what I realized and what I see after the pandemic, it's one very positive thing that many bands, came with new albums, new stuff to release. Everything was super fresh because everyone had the time and were working, because couldn't go for touring, couldn't do any shows, so everyone was almost composing, new stuff, and the stuff came out to be like great. I see a lot of new festivals jumping, here and there after the pandemic, and being like sold out festivals. It's crazy. People were super thirsty about live shows and about gigs, after the pandemic ended. But it's correct, as you said, everything is becoming more expensive. Touring is becoming more and more hard and difficult for bands. It's crazy, the flying tickets, the bus prices, the gas. I mean, everything is like rising. And of course, you cannot rise high the price of the tickets. It's impossible for people to afford it. And unfortunately, I see a lot of bands that for example, from Europe, they want to tour in the US, or bands from US want to tour in Europe. And because of the costs, like these tours are not happening, or they are about to happen, but they are canceling at the last minute because it's impossible. It's impossible. It's more and more, it's getting more and more hard.
Okay. Oh, talking about other kind of aspects, one detail that I saw with the advertising aspect is that the many people says says woman's band within death metal, black metal, thrash metal, etc. A lot of things. When talking about the advertisement level. So, and for me, it's more important to say I like Nervosa not because they're woman, but because of their music. Is much important to me. So, and those of us who have been around for many years, like me, I'm 43 years old, so I've been in the metal scene since a lot of time. So I prefer when I hear the first time the music from Cadaveria, from the Opera Nueve, Girls School, this kind of bands. I remember that I like the music, not if the man or female. I don't care about it. So what are your thoughts about this subject when the advertisement level has more attention to be a woman band than a man than a male band?
No, for me and the way we see it, it's like it's music. It's music, and it's a band that releases album, makes music. So we are focusing on making like great music, and for me, all the time, I'm more consider about the music and the song that I am listening, without thinking like if it's a man or woman, young or old. I don't care. I care about the music to be great. And because there is this thing that metal was more for like men, let's say, because the percentage of women and the female bands was too small. But this thing is starting to change. It's more and more female bands coming out, or more and more women getting into bands, becoming musicians and great musicians. But but of course, the music has to be good always.
Okay. Well, other aspects about this matter is I remember I talking about to some women's band in the past, especially one I remember to spoke this year with Laura from Burning Witches, and he told me that it's not possible to include a male. I mean, a male musician into the band because the structure of the band is just women. So, or just women. So for that, what do you think of this idea having a female members in the band, just a female members in the band? Are you okay with playing with male members perhaps in Nervosa or perhaps in a different band?
Look, I was playing in different bands, like before Nervosa, that was like a all-male band, and I was the only female. Of course, there's no problem at all. It's, I want to play music, and for me, what matters is to, have a great match with all the rest of the members, the rest of the band members. So as I said, if it's like male or female, I mostly care about the type of person and the type of human the others are. I don't care if it's male or female, but what we're thinking with Nervosa, it's like it always was an all-female band, and also it's giving a step for female musicians to come up. I mean, like, okay, men have a lot of more like opportunities like over the years, and it used to be like this. But it's very important for women, especially at these times, that women are starting to go higher and higher and trying and getting more and more. You know, it's very important to have some bands showing that, you know, everything is possible, and to have some bands for them to, you know, step ahead and have some bands as an example.
Okay. Talking about now from your personal project, Helena Kotina band. So which kind of plans do you have for your personal project, Helena Kotina? Because until I know, the band just has an EP, one of those days released in 2022. Perhaps you will release your first album in perhaps this year, next year, who knows?
No, you know, Helena Kotina or the HK was more like a studio project, let's say. I just had a lot of ideas and a lot of songs, you know, already written down. And during the pandemic, I decided that it was like the right moment, maybe to start working on them. And I just wanted to be like a studio album, record the songs and release them. You know, I didn't have the plan to create a band or tour or you know, create later on another album. It's totally like totally free. Wherever I'm feeling like inspired and want to do something, I'm just writing the song there, releasing the song. It's not something that I will, you know, go after it. It's more like a studio project.
Yeah, okay. Well, Elena, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoy this one like me. You're a terrific person. Love this new album. Well, congratulations on this new one. Perhaps do you want to add something? I think a lot. When do you have a lot of huge fans talking about Nervosa? Has a lot of fans here in Latin America, and perhaps you want to add something. Something to add for them and Metalerium followers.
Yeah, I would like to say that keep an eye open, because 29th of September is getting closer and closer. So the album release, the jailbreak, is it's almost there, and be ready for it. And of course, we are working to come again and play for all of you pretty soon. We'll see about it.